As you probably know, in 2025 there are free alternatives for pretty much every premium or paid music production plugin. Let's start with a bit of an obscure one. Cherry Audio's PS3300 is obviously an emulation of a Korg PS3300, and Full Bucket is a developer who makes many different great sounding Korg VSTs, like this Full Bucket FP3300. This of course isn't going to give you an equally as smooth experience as working with the Cherry Audio synth, especially in regards to presets. You do have some that you can access through here, and it does have some good sounding ones. Let's listen to a couple of them. I do think it has some pretty great sounding presets in there. In a bit of a musical context, it could sound like this. Hi, I'm Santus, and I have a list of over 30 free plugins, and I'm going to save you this amount of money if you're crazy and you would have bought all of these plugins, which you wouldn't have, I know. This is part 1 of a 3-part series where I'm going to show these free plugin alternatives. You can expect approximately 10 free plugins per video, and I'm doing this 3-part series because I think watching a 30+ minute video about free plugins is a bit overwhelming, and maybe it's also nice if I can post more than like once every 2 weeks. The latest you can expect the next part of the series is 1 week from where I'm posting this video, but if you leave many angry comments, I might post it sooner. And this might be a great opportunity for you to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss when the next video drops, and also put on notifications, whatever. And I'm going to mention some obvious ones. Serum 2 can of course famously be more or less replicated with Vital. I'm not going to argue that it's exactly the same. What I'm going to argue though is that it's, in terms of sound design, on a similar level, at least compared to Serum 1. Serum 2 does seem to have some more new options that go beyond what Vital can provide. But one reason why I think those are comparable is the culture around it. Serum 2 is kind of the standard wavetable synth, and you can find many third-party preset packs, be it free or paid. The same is true for Vital. For example, I found a whole bunch of third-party free preset packs that you can just put into Vital, like this SNFK series or the Sonic Spore series. Let's listen to some presets. And also it does have a decent preset browser with some filtering. I wish there was more filtering, honestly, but it's decent enough. So Vital does have a good workflow. It's a powerful wavetable synthesizer, and also you can find many presets for it. In that regards, I think it's a decent alternative to something like Serum 2. Now the DX7 is obviously an iconic FM synth by Yamaha, and Arturia makes a famous emulation of it, but you can also get the free Dext. It does look a bit intimidating, and this is maybe not the synth where you should go and try to learn FM synthesis, but this is the synth where you can go online and download many different cartridges. They are compatible with the original Yamaha DX7, like original 80s, 90s. What I would suggest you do is you take the presets you like and you save them in your DAW's preset browser. That makes it a lot faster to browse. I don't really like the dynamics all that much of this patch right here, so I used Dynaster by Otoboogie, which seems to be a free version of Waves MV2. It's a very easy to use upwards and downwards compressor with just these sliders right here. see how easy this... I think it should have an additional gate setting. You hear how it's trying to boost this noise in the end. I don't really like that. But aside from that, it is a pretty good plugin. Very easy to use upwards compression, comparable to Waves MV2. Another plugin I want to add right here is what I would argue is a decent alternative for Eventide Blackhole. I'm talking about Native Instruments Reaktor. And this is also a very colorful, very huge sounding algorithmic reverb, which I would argue is kind of what Blackhole is as well. But I haven't tried Blackhole myself. But if I'm looking for a sound that seems to be more or less like what I would expect from Blackhole, I keep going to Reaktor. Now we can add FB3300 again. Let's move on to the Juno-106. This is an iconic synth by Roland. This here is Roland's own VST version of the Juno. Personally, I have the Cherry Audio DCO-106, and I'm going to argue that Tyrell N6 by Yuhi is a free alternative for any Juno synth. It is definitely not exactly the same, and it seems to be a bit more complex maybe. It has 2 oscillators instead of 1. It also has a sub and noise comparable to a Juno, and pulse width modulation is very prominent, comparable also to a Juno. Yuhi does have very good presets across the board. Let's hear this one. Juno-esque, right? Let's just hear 1 or 2 of the DCO-106 presets to compare it to. The factory presets are kind of simple though, usually. These seem to be a lot more darker than the Tyrell sounds so far. And also they don't seem to use the chorus all that often. Let's turn on the famous Juno chorus. Maybe something brassy. Brassy polysynths are kind of what I associate with a Juno. Stuff like this. Back to the Tyrell. Let's see if there's a brassy sound in here. We can just search brass. Broadly speaking, we can get similar sounds out of Tyrell as we can do out of a Juno. And now something that you can do to make this even more clear is you can add another free plugin alternative. For example, for Arturia's Chorus June 6, which is an emulation of a Juno chorus. You can of course use Tel Chorus LX, which is also an emulation of a Juno chorus, just in a plugin that is free. And now we really have the Juno sounds in here, right? Let's turn off the Anaster. No chorus. Yeah, the chorus definitely gives it a lot more of that Juno flavor, and the Dynaster helps elongate the sustain a lot. Let's talk about the Cherry Audio CR87. I'm going to use it as a stand-in for any vintage drum machine that is kind of smooth. And I think this full bucket Pops is also very capable of a similar smooth vintage drum computer sound. It is a different model. This is based on a Roland drum machine, and this is based on a Korg drum machine, and it sounds like this. It even has built-in drum patterns. Next up, I want to talk about an alternative for Chromaphone. I already made a whole video about this plugin. It's called Rippler X, and it seems to be an attempt at cloning Chromaphone exactly. I also have Ram on it. Try it sounds like this. But I think Ram makes it sound really nice. I'm not going to go more into detail. You can watch this video if you want to know more about Rippler X. Talking about other videos I made, I want to mention Objekt. I once demoed Reason Objekt and I think it's a really cool synth, but I don't want to spend the money that you need to pay in addition to buying Reason Studios or subscribing to Reason Plus. So I've been looking for free alternatives for this synth for a long time. To an extent, I think we could say that Rippler X is a contender for being an alternative for Objekt, but it actually isn't. I made a long, in-depth video about what could be considered alternatives for Reason Objekt. I came up with Qualcomm PMS. Let's look at one last preset, violin. Which stands for Physical Modeling Synth. But Qualcomm PMS just isn't that stable of a plugin, and I don't want to demo it again, but you can check out the video right here. It's a great video, and there are many other free alternatives or free physical modeling synths in it. Sadly though, Native Instruments seems to have discontinued Mikroprism, which used to be one of the best free alternatives for Objekt. But if you got complete start like a couple of months or years back, you're still going to own Mikroprism and you got it for free. So I can recommend it still. Another drum plugin. Again, I listed this Cherry Audio KR55C right here, which is a Korg drum machine. And I think you can more or less replace it with this Korg drum machine by Full Bucket again, Drum Tracks. It isn't based on the same model, but I think both of them are a lot more punchy than Bucket Pops or CR78 that we heard before. Also, if you click on these words down here, you can actually access a Lin kit. I love Lin drums. So I had an issue with Drum Tracks where it confused me to the point where I wasn't sure if I should recommend it. But luckily I figured out what happened. I think some of the patterns are going to pitch around the sounds, and it took me a while to figure out how to pitch the sounds. You have to right click. Now you're holding down this trigger and now you can tune this note. So this is the regular drum track sound. You also have built-in grooves again. And now the Lin kit. Voxengo's Tube Amp is my go-to tube distortion plugin. You could use it to replace something like Soundtoys Little Radiator, bypassed, enabled. Next up, DBX 160. Let's look at it again on Drum Tracks because this is the perfect compressor for some retro drum machines. It is really snappy. Bypassed, enabled, bypassed, enabled. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Parts 2 and 3 are coming soon. And as I told you, if you're going to stress me out in the comments, I might post them sooner than a week from now. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe. See you again soon. Yeah, that's it.